Kamala Harris is out with this new book, 107 Days. When did you read it, and what did you think of the portrayal of you in your VP run?
I read it last week. Look, I was honored by it. I think the vice president was very fair in her assessments. I think the story of interviewing and how we got to know each other is very fair, and she has every right to express, what she needs to do to make sure we won. It is interesting to read a book.
The cloak and dagger lead up to your selection was somewhat comical as they secretly ushered the finals in for interviews and had you Diet Mountain Dew ready for you. It sounds like you got a kick out of it.
No, it's true.
Picked you up at a dog park.
Now. We got told that we were going to get interviewed, and you had to keep it super silent. And of course, if you spoke, and I said, I just want to do my thing. They said, you can have one trooper, no staff. Don't bring a phone. And they gave the trooper the instructions. You had to have they didn't want people picking up on this, so I had to fly into Newark, fly late at night where nobody saw me on a plane, and then they dropped me off at a dog park, and a black car came by and picked me up, and I'm like, I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express, by the way, the night. I said I don't always, interview for vice president, but when I do, I was at, and took me in, and I did not realize that was part of the screening. I see in the book now that the person who was in the car was reporting back how we acted. I was admiring how nice the yard was at the vice president's. I said, do you mow that yourself, or who does it, or whatever? And I'm assuredly talking, and then asking the individual, I said, how'd you get this job? This seems like a crazy job.
There's one more section I want you to comment on. It was, did you convey to her that you felt like maybe you let her down in the debate? And did you feel as though the attacks on your National Guard service were, I think she used the words BS?
Well, I felt like I wanted to push back more, but I think the assessment is when you do that, they're spending the money. You're kind of, if you're explaining, you're losing type of thing, because it was a lie. It'd been misproven. You saw it here in Minnesota. They tried this. And I think I said about a debate, just to be candid on this, there was no preparation for the vice president to be more cordial. And look, I'll give them this, that they were prepared well, and I admit this about myself. I try and figure out how to find common ground on things, and I think probably not the right place for it. But the teacher in me wants to answer the questions and wants to get there, and I think maybe that, and I told her, if to be more forceful on that, maybe so. But what I think for your listeners to understand, what's challenging is, it's not your campaign; it was her campaign. So I always was kind of living on the edge that I don't want to do something to misconvey, because we got crosswise a couple times. I spoke about the Electoral College, which I disagree with, and then you have to kind of walk that back.